Hey, it's Dave from the Caregiver Dave radio program. Today we have an amazing guest going to be talking about how to eliminate failure, defeat, loss, and misfortune in your life. And we have an especially exciting show planned for you today. So meet Louis Pelliccioni Jr., a results-driven leader with 60 years experience in coaching, finance, real estate, and business, especially for you caregivers. Lou is ready to help you succeed and get started today because a lot of caregivers, they need some help with their jobs, with their careers, with their finances, with their stress, and so on. Louis is going to help you with all of that.
Yeah.
Louis, so great to have you on the Caregiver Day radio show.
Dave, thanks. I've been looking forward to it.
So just in a couple sentences, tell me, who is Louis and, what's his mission in life?
I started out early. I started my coaching career when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And the principal at the school that I went to said, "Hey, the 8th grade coach has gotten sick. Can you coach the team?" And I was a sophomore in college. And I said, "Sure." So I started my coaching career then. And then a couple of years later, the head coach at the high school left. And they asked me if I'd like to be the head coach. And I hadn't even finished college yet. And we did. And I'm very proud that in 5 years, we won a couple state championships, which they'd never won. And we won over 80% of our games. And I used to think I had a little bit to do with it. But as I've gotten older in life, I've realized if you don't have the talent, you're not going to win anything. It doesn't matter.
There's no I in team, right?
Yes. And but I went on and coached in small college, and then I was an assistant for 7 years at West Virginia University, and I'd get back and do it all over again. It was just a wonderful, traveled the country, was all over the United States, foreign countries, recruiting, working on camps. So I've been around success, and I've worked with all state players in high school, all conference players in college, even people that made it into the pros. So I know what it takes.
When did you realize that you were good at coaching?
You know what? That's a heck of a question, Dave. When did I realize? I never even thought about it. I know I loved it. And it's kind of interesting when I researched my book, Success is More Than Winning. You'll find this interesting. I signed with Bradley Publishing 6 years ago, and I'm in the second meeting. It's a Zoom conference call, and there's 100 authors on there, and there's 100 editors. And I'm sitting there listening because I'm just getting started, and all of a sudden this lady goes, "Mr. Pelliccioni." And I'm going, I haven't even done anything yet. I'm already getting called on. And she said, "Tell me what's going to make your book about success better than the 150 success books that are out there," which is a heck of a question to ask somebody. Yeah. Put the spot on. I said, "Well, first of all, I'm following Chicken Soup for the Soul's success. I've got over 100 stories." She said, "That's a good start because we know stories are important." But she said, "I'm going to give you an idea. I've never seen a success book ever." And she said, "I love success books. I've read them all. That basically backs up the experience they're talking about with research." And I said, "You know what? That's a good idea." Well, she didn't tell me how much work I was going to have to do. and there's like 75 different research projects that I talk about in my book to back up what I'm saying. And saying, by the way, if you don't think this works, here's a 25-year-old study that says this is very important to success. And it's just been really interesting and so that's basically with the book. And I knew I loved, I had a passion for coaching and teaching, which we're going to go into in a minute, how important that is. And then I went into my hobby, the stock market. And I've been dealing with that for the last 41 years. That's why I'm still working. I love what I do. I enjoy it. And it's just been a lot of fun. And now I'm giving talks at high schools.
Wow.
And I've given about 12 so far. The book's been out for a couple months about success. And I've given talks in Florida. I've given talks in West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and I've just lined up talks in Las Vegas because I frequent there. That's one of my favorite places. I love the concerts. And so that's kind of what it's been doing. And I'm very busy with the book, with on podcast, and also talking to high school kids and teachers and parents.
I'm so proud of you for investing in the youth of America because they need help. You know, I've
Well,
never seen such a confused generation in all my years. And God bless you for taking this under your or on top of your shoulders
yeah, it's
to
been a lot. You know
help them
what? It's
out.
been very interesting, Dave, so far. Really has been very, very interesting.
And you're getting good response from these kids. They're not
Yeah,
just saying, "What's
yes,
this
I'm
old
getting
geezer
good.
do? What can I
Oh
learn from
yeah, what's
him?"
this old geezer doing there? No, they've enjoyed it, and I mean, I hit them with. I've always been a straightforward coach. I tell them, I said, let's talk privilege, and here I am, and I said, I grew up poor. It did not hurt me one bit. I said, is it a little harder if you don't have lots of money or if you don't have super talent or other things? Sure, it is, but it doesn't keep you from being successful. So I said, I don't want to hear it. Privilege is
So,
just an excuse.
so I'm going to ask the most obvious question pertaining to the title of your book: "Success is more than winning." Uh, well, if it's more than winning, what is the more?
Yeah. Okay. How about a definition of success?
That's a good start.
Yeah. And I was, again, very fortunate. When I was 21 years old, the Boosters Club knew after the first year of coaching high school, we did very well. We were 20-2. And they said, Lou, we're going to reward you. We'll send you anywhere you want to go because we know you have a lot of coaches that you follow. And so my idol back when I was 21 years old was John Wooden,
Mm.
the great coach at UCLA. And I came out to California. And of course, I really wanted to come to California, if you want to choose
Yeah.
it. But it was just, he's been a big influence on my life. I've read everything that he's done. And people now look back at him and say, the man was a genius, to win 7 championships in a row and 10 in 12 years. Think about that. It's, and it's just everything he did from cutting down ways, but it was his definition of success. And basically, his definition was peace of mind, which is a direct result in self satisfaction in doing the best that you're capable of becoming. That is success. You can only do as well, or you can only do as good as you can do. That's all you can do. If it's not good enough, then you have to work on things. If you don't reach the levels you want, I never talked to a team when I coached about winning. Do your best. But I'm going to tell you, it's not easy.
So is the word impossible not in your vocabulary?
Well, I will tell you that our mantra when I was coaching high school was the impossible dream because they had never won a championship in 50 years, and we won one. And I don't believe in impossible, and I
It
never
makes
have. And I've been able to do a lot of things in my life. I was told that you couldn't win at the school that I coached at. We won 2 state championships. I was told that I wasn't good enough in finance, that they weren't going to hire me in finance. They said I was, well, they didn't tell me. I found it out 25 years later when I got the report from another manager 25 years afterwards on the first year that I was working in finance. And I saw the report, and the guy basically said I was average. And I think I am. I think I'm just an average guy that doesn't know how to quit. And I will spend unlimited amount of hours or whatever. And it's just been the kind of thing that has driven me. I'm very competitive, but in a good way and not at all cost. I don't believe in that. I believe in winning. I would rather lose than win at all cost. That's just my personality. It goes from what I learned from being a golfer that, you don't touch your ball, you don't do these kind of things. I believe in the integrity of sports. I hate what I'm seeing today where there's so much winning at all costs, but I think you can do it the right way, I've tried to do that in my life, and I try to teach people to do that in their life. And so, yeah, I've been very blessed, like I said, but I've dealt with obstacles along the way, like everybody. And I've been told numerous times. I mean, you've published books, Dave. You know what it's like. You get turned down 10 or 15 times before someone accepts it if you go
Yeah.
through some organization. My book on that I did 40 some years ago on handling pressure in sports, my gosh, I think we were turned down 9 or 10 times because we were one of the first, myself and the co-author, we were one of the first people to write a sports psychology book in the late 70s. And it was entitled Don't Choke, and dealt with handling pressure in sports and stuff, just in general. And I learned a lot about stress and so forth from writing that. And, but yeah, they said, no, this will never sell. No, this won't be good. No, that's not good enough. And that just makes me work harder. So, no, I do not believe anything's impossible.
I'm
And
sure glad you didn't listen to the naysayers, because that's a great rule in life. Let's talk about stress. What what part does stress play in coaching and in sports for the players? What kind of stress do they deal with that you had to reprogram them on?
well, I was very fortunate again. I'm going through school, and I picked speech as my degree in college in communication. I had my master's in it. Well, at the same time, we have a professor there that is working on all kind of anxieties. Of course, giving a speech in public is still the number one fear in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so I dealt with people. That was part of my master's degree, that I learned how to help people that had anxieties and stuff like that. And then we got together, and he said, and of course, I'm always talking about coaching in class. And I'm saying, okay, you've got people that are afraid to give a speech in public, or people that have stress from their careers or whatever. What about players that are good in practice, but not in games? He said, well, do you want to do some work and we can come up with a study? I said, yeah. I spent a whole summer, I think, going to like 150 high schools and having kids fill out a questionnaire, and then we limited it down to so many different questions, and we found what we called it a choke test. Kids that would say they wouldn't do as well. And then I actually worked with players when I was coaching, both mental and the physical, learning the greatest skill you can learn. As I've told people, one of the greatest skills I've ever learned is the skill of relaxation. It's a physical skill, and it's helped by the mental. And this is 40 some years ago. I was working on all this stuff, and have been going forward. And it's so important how we handle stress. And I've got a chapter in my book about it because, Dave, I know people that they've got everything in the world, but they haven't been able to handle stress and success. And they're alcoholics. They have no family life. I can go on and go on. All the different things that, lead you down the path. And it's all because, a lot of it's because of stress, because people don't know how to handle it. And to me, it's one of the most important things that we should teach every kid in high school, how to handle it, because I've seen it in my career, Dave. I've seen so much, and I know you have too. People that have it all but can't handle it.
Yeah, especially caregivers. Let's cross over to caregiving now.
Yeah.
Do you have any caregiving experience, or do you know people, or were you a
Well,
caregiver? Or
I
did you
would
ever
say
need caregiving?
when you talk about it, I've watched it in my own family, and I've got right now a relative that the husband is basically the caregiver. And I've watched it very, very closely because it's a close relative of mine. Both of them are, and I've seen what stress has done, and of how stressful that job can be, where you're taking care of everything for somebody and so forth. So yes, I think from that alone, in fact, I have done all that I could do to say, you've got to get out. You've got to get away from it. You've got to do some things and exercise and take away some of the stress that you're feeling, because it's a career. It's one of those careers that can be very stressful.
Yeah.
There's
Well, it doesn't
no
matter
question.
if you're a football player and you're worried about winning the
No.
next game, or
Yeah.
losing, letting your team down, versus trying to take care of a relative that maybe is not very pleasant. Maybe
Yes.
they don't like being taken care of, but you have no choice. It's a parent, and now they're disabled. You got to take away the car keys. Stress,
Yeah.
stress, stress every single day.
Yeah. And I went through it with my family, and now I'm watching it with other relatives, because I had to take the car keys away from my dad, which
Mm.
was difficult.
How did that
And
work out?
believe it or not, my dad was very easy. And when I say that, relatively, what I've seen, I mean, he came to me and said, "Son, put me in some place that I'm safe,
Mm.
and that's
Wow.
all. And come see me, and help me take care of things."
What a
And
smart guy. That's so rare.
I
If
know it is. I know it is. I mean, from what I've been told, and I mean that not acting like I have a lot of experience, because I don't, but I've talked to other people and I've seen the results, and he was as pleasant of a man, and I know what can happen because of drugs. Maybe people are taken and they become mean, and it's. I mean, I think it's one of the toughest jobs there is, because you got emotion involved. So, boy, handling stress as a caregiver, there can't be anything more important than that.
Yeah.
There can't be.
Well, hopefully, if you are unfortunate enough to be in his position one day, you have this wisdom to tell your kids the same thing.
I've already told them. I've already told them. I said, nope, I'm not staying somewhere. I said, make sure I'm safe, make sure, and by then you'll be taking care of all finances and everything. We've already got wills, all those kind of things done, and trust, and
You
everything's
look you
everything's in
look
good
great
shape.
for you look great for 77. You don't look a day over 60.
Well, you know what? What I'm afraid of is if I stop. I've been active my whole life. I've got a special gene. It's called my VO2. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
It's your oxygen in your blood, and of course, the higher the percentage of oxygen you have, the more you're able to keep going. And I don't get tired.
How about aches and pains? You got any aches and pains?
I'm just starting to get some of those. I don't like
Just
those
starting,
much.
huh?
Yeah, just starting it.
I
And
am so jealous.
I mean, I actually started having aches and pains, and I went to the doctor, and he said, "Lou, have you ever heard of arthritis?" And I said, "No, I'm not supposed to get that. I'm too young." He said, "Well," he said, "people can get arthritis really early, you know."
You give me
So
hope, Lou. You give me hope for the future.
yeah, but yeah, it's just, when I looked at, there's different careers, and stress enters every career. There's not a career, especially as you go up the ladder or whatever. But here's one, man, when you look at it from dealing with the emotions of everything. And of course, the problem is these caregivers, because I do know some caregivers, and I've talked to them before, and I've told these people, I said, you've got to exercise. It's one of the best ways. You don't need a drink. You don't need drugs. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with having a drink every once in a while. Nothing wrong at all. But I'm saying you need to get the stress. And the other thing that I was thinking about when you called and to put this together, how important staying, again, one of the great lessons I learned from John Wooden, his four mindsets, and the one that hits home, and it's very difficult to do, but it's been something that I've used for since I was in my 20s, and that's staying in the present. Meaning, when you leave work, it's done, and that is so tough to do because of maybe what happened in a caregiver's day, what they saw, or how they helped with, or somebody was mean, or things like that. And you have to be able to separate it. You have to be able to stay in the present when you leave work. It's no different than I saw Coach Wooden, the first practice that I went to out in LA. He's addressing his team and he says, okay, guys, I don't care if you had a fight with your girlfriend. I don't care if you have a test tomorrow. The next 2 hours are mine. I want 100% of your concentration on basketball. And he said, you're going to have things in your mind. You got to learn how to do it. But here's what was neat. At the end of practice, he brought him over and he said, okay, I don't care if you've had a bad practice. I don't care if you've had a good practice. Well, he said, I do care, but now it's time to go out. Maybe you have studying to do. Maybe you're going to go out with friends. Forget about basketball. I don't care if you had a bad practice. Tomorrow's another day. Go out and enjoy life. And he taught him, do everything to the fullest. When you're having fun, have fun. When you're studying, study. And I've used this. It's one of the greatest, besides learning how to relax, skills that I've learned. If you would see how I wrote my book, because I'm working full time. Only time I could do it is in the evenings. I'm playing music. I'm watching sports. I'm blocking everything I can block out. That's how I block things out from my mind, not from noise. And that's how I wrote the book. Of course, I had one friend tell me, no, that's why it took you 6 years to write it. And because of all the stuff you had going on. But living in the present could help anybody. I don't care if you're a caregiver, whatever you are. Leave work at work. When you leave work, leave it and pick it up the next day.
You're a great coach. Those are great words, great attitude. So rare. That's probably why you have the success you have. But back to caregivers again. What should you do? Many caregivers didn't choose their profession, even if it's a temporary profession. They were drafted. It's like you get a draft notice, or they feel like they woke up in caregiver prison with no possibility of parole, life sentence. What do you do if caregivers hate their job? How do you give them hope? How do you give them goals, planning, and all that stuff?
Yeah, you're asking a tough question there when you've been drafted, like I say, into it. Let me state before I start, there was a study done in 2004, and there was a book written on the study, and it tried to say what is the most important key to success, even though there's no secret sauce. These people that say, oh, this one thing, or no, I have 99 in my book, different things, different ideas, different traits, different attitudes that it takes to be successful. And the number one trait is called grit. And that's the title of the book. It was done in 2004. And what is grit? Passion for what you do. So, man, if you've got to work at something you hate, and I'm not going to say hate, but maybe just don't like. There's a lot of people that have been in that situation. My father was a coal miner back in the 50s. I don't know how you could like that. I don't know how you could like it. Back then, the safety and everything else. But it's the type of thing. I'm a really, really big believer that if you really hate what you're doing, I hate to say it, you find another job. Because of what it does to you stress-wise and everything. It kills you, basically. Those kind of things. Now, how do you deal with it if you have to do it? Like my father, I remember asking my dad when I was older, I said, Dad, how did you do that day after day? Go down in that black hole. And he said, son, he told me, I had great parents, just great parents. They taught me so many things. And he said, son, you got to do what you got to do. And he said, there's an attitude. And he said, now, I hate to see it in the younger generations. A lot of people don't think that. But he said, I had to feed my family. I had to do what I did. Now, luckily, he did leave after 20 years, so he didn't put in too many more. And he finally left because he had some health problems, was starting to have some health problems, and the doctor, the old company doctor, told him, "You can't do this anymore. You can work on the outside of the mind." So that's where he kind of was starting to pick up his next career, working on motors and stuff. So it's the idea that what's the reason you're doing it? If something that you don't like, and I'm not saying everybody doesn't like a job. I found I've got a friend that's a caregiver and loves it, dearly loves it, and loves everything about it. Just because something is high stress and high mental, it can motivate some people. Yeah. I mean, look at these CEOs that, their job is unbelievably successful. Stressful. And they're working 90 hours a week. And it's just, they love it. So there are some that do. The best thing I would tell a caregiver, because I've talked to a couple of them I know, is you've got to get rid of the stress. You've got to learn to deal with it mentally and physically. And as I told you, I learned the skill of the physical skill of relaxation, where all you do is you go through every muscle group. You tense the muscle and you relax the muscle. And believe it or not, after so many sessions, if you feel stress come to your body, you know how to relax it. And like before I give a talk or something like that, of course, I don't call it stress. I say I'm excited to give the talk. I have a positive way of looking at it instead of a negative way. And it's just kind of normal. And so stress is a normal thing in certain jobs, certain careers, certain things you do. And understanding how to deal with it physically, you got to learn the skill of relaxation. And it's very easy to learn. There's all kind of CD tapes out there that you can go through what I've gone through, what I took people through. And then the other important part, Dave, we know it, is the mental. Oh my gosh, how you look at life and the research. Oh my gosh, when I got into the research about success and the mind and, how important thinking positive is.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Well, Louis, I can't believe how fast our time's gone today. Thanks so much for coming on the show and making arrangements to get here when we had a cancellation today. How can our listeners reach you, find out more about what you do?
Well, I've got a website that I have all my stuff on. Basically, it's yesyoucansucceed.org. And on there, I have a 3-hour, I got so many things I could tell you. We don't have enough time. 3-hour course on success. I've got a book. I've got a workbook. And I'm, love to go around. And if people find that some of the stuff we talked about, they can buy the book. I'm very happy. It's a bestseller on Amazon, which whatever that means, I've been told. And so it's just that I've got 27 5s already. The highest rating from people, and they've been very complimentary. And I only know about half of them. So that's the other thing. But that would be the best way. And I think people are enjoying the book because of the 100 stories and the 75 research. And then the third part is some of my experience.
Well, thanks again, Louis, for coming on the show. And everybody, remember our live shows become recorded pod and video casts on your favorite platforms. My #1 best-selling book, It's Your Life Too, How to Survive and Thrive as a Caregiver, available wherever books are sold. And also my free membership website, caregiverdave.com. And don't forget my Facebook page, Caregiver Dave, 34,000 caregivers helping each other. So again, a big thank you to all my listeners out there all over the world, tuning in every Wednesday, making us the #1 caregiver podcast on the internet. So until next week, same time, same channel. May God richly bless you all. Bye-bye.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing.